Welcome to Fulci Metal Jacket, where we curate and celebrate film on the outer fringes of the mainstream. But today's a little different. Usually I don't see the point in talking too much about films that I don't like, but this one did intrigue me for a number of reasons. I found it quite interesting. So what can I say about 28 Years Later, the latest instalment of the 28 Days Later franchise from Alex Garland and Danny Boyle? Well, I really did want to like this movie. Believe me, I really did. As I said, I do try to only cover films that I do enjoy to some extent, but alas, it just wasn't to be the case in this instance. But nevertheless, 28 Years Later does feel like a good one to talk about though, if only out of curiosity. So with this one, we have one screenwriter, and the whole thing is such a mess that it really does make the most compelling case I've seen in quite some time for a screenplay by committee since I saw The Last Jedi. The two films have quite a few similarities in that regard. So I'm not even going to bother going into the plot because a lot of people have talked about this one already. The premise is fairly plain for all to see. And besides, it's all pretty incoherent anyway, so really I'm just here to talk about the the vibe of the film itself. So much like The Last Jedi, this film's incredibly high concept, but unfortunately it has no ideas and no real direction. I mean, it's fine to be highbrow, it's even fine to be lowbrow, both can be pretty fun. But in my opinion at least, there's no greater cardinal sin in filmmaking than feigning high concept with no real substance or original ideas. And this movie does commit that cardinal sin. It also does the whole Last Jedi thing of deconstructing something that should have been pretty formulaic, obviously, for no particular reason. And I also think that it's high time we actively prevented film students from being exposed to Apocalypse Now, because they just keep regurgitating it at inappropriate times, and they pretend that they're influenced by it and understand it, but they just keep bringing out all these tired pastiches of Apocalypse Now with no real redeeming qualities whatsoever. And you can pretty much set your watch by whether a filmmaker will decide to riff on either Aliens or Apocalypse Now at this point. It's all getting a bit tired, and 28 Years Later is no exception. I know there's a few high-profile critics gushing about this movie and pontificating about the genius and all the hidden messages to be found within. All of them are parroting the studio directive that this film is at its heart about family. I wish I had $1 for every review I've seen that's uttered that line. But keep in mind, all these people were probably gushing about The Last Jedi as well, and then they never spoke of it again. So worst case, all these critics are well aware of the nonsense they're spouting, but to be more charitable, maybe it's a celluloid phenomenon akin to the story of the Emperor's New Clothes, and they think that they're seeing something in 28 Years Later that really doesn't exist. So they'll all bang on about how at its heart it's about family and it's about Brexit, and how you and I are too dumb to get it. But all those themes really are as hopelessly underdeveloped as everything else in this movie. People sometimes ask me why I keep going back to the 60s, 70s and 80s for my celluloid fix for the most part. And movies like 28 Years Later are Exhibit A, basically. So I won't waste any more of your time on this review. Frankly, it's unbelievably difficult to screw up a pretty basic concept like this one, but remarkably they did it, and I have no idea why. And let's be honest, the first 28 Days Later only really worked because it borrowed most of its concept and plot structure from Day of the Triffids. So this one isn't even that good, isn't even that redeeming, it's not even really worth a look as a curiosity, I don't think. Do yourself a favour, save an hour and 55 minutes and just watch 28 Days Later again, or just go and watch the excellent inspiration for this series in the form of the great BBC miniseries Day of the Triffids, and be done with it. So sadly, even Ralph Fiennes couldn't save this one. This series is more terminally ill than The English Patient at this point. But if you do have to watch it, this would make a good double bill with The Last Jedi if you're into that sort of thing. And probably you'd want to accompany this but with a warm bowl of gruel and some castor oil for a good cleanse afterwards. Really cleanse the old digestive system. Quite bizarrely, they've already made a sequel to 28 Years Later. They've already jumped the gun, as it were. Talk about counting your chickens before they've hatched. I don't know if anyone will part with their hard-earned money to see it. Who knows? But I wouldn't exactly be brimming with confidence if I was an investor or a studio executive. These movies really do have to be some kind of tax dodge. There's no other explanation, frankly, for this movie to even exist or for how it even got greenlit. Anyway, this has been a hell of a talk, and hopefully I'll be back more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed next time I talk about a movie, because this one really was quite disappointing, unfortunately. Maybe you have a different opinion on this one, an opinion more in line with what a lot of the critics are saying. If so, by all means, let us know in the comments. I did and a bit about doing this video on 28 Years Later, but this movie is uniquely awful, so I thought that some of you might find it interesting or amusing, and hopefully you have. Anyway, thanks for joining me here on Fulci Metal Jacket. As I said, I'll try to be brighter, more bushy-tailed and more positive next time. And if you did find anything of value here, please like, share and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.